After 5 long days in space, the spacecraft had finally reached Earth's orbit. Leon, Ruby, and Bubba sat in the cabin, their mission successful and their spirits high. The sight of their home planet filled the windows, a breathtaking blue sphere surrounded by a thin veil of atmosphere. "All right, Team G16, Evans's voice came through the communicator. "In 2 minutes, you'll need to enter the ejection chamber. The capsule is ready, and our retrieval team is already stationed in the ocean where you'll land. This part's all about trust in your systems." Leon replied, "Understood, sir. Waiting for your command." As they prepared, down at the Orion Space Axis Research Facility, Dr. Hector was in his lab analyzing recent data when his system picked up a peculiar sound wave. The unusual frequency and pattern caught his attention. "Heather, come here," Dr. Hector called to his colleague. "I'm getting something significant." Heather and the team gathered around as Hector captured the sound and decoded it. The garbled transmission slowly formed into discernible text on the monitor. "Need help? Planet X." The lab fell silent as they stared at the message. "What could it mean?" one scientist whispered. Dr. Hector grabbed his tablet and rushed to Evan's control room. "Sir, we intercepted a signal. Look at this." Evans studied the message with a furrowed brow. "Planet X? Help? This is unusual." Heather suggested, "Could it be intelligent life?" Evans shook his head, his tone measured. "Whatever it is, we can't decipher it fully right now. Catalog it and secure the data. We'll revisit this once Leon's team has safely returned." Back on the spacecraft, Leon turned to his team. "All right, let's get into the ejection chamber." Ruby checked her harness and gave him a thumbs up. "Ready when you are." Leon glanced at Bubba, still snoozing. With a nudge, Bubba stirred awake. What's happening?" "Time to go home, Bubba," Leon said with a grin. As they entered the chamber, Ruby secured the lock mechanism. Leon confirmed, "Chamber locked and pressurized, sir." Evan's voice came through again. "All right, Team G16, you'll be ejected along with the capsule. Autopilot is set for descent. Expect to land in the ocean in approximately 10 minutes. Remember, Earth's gravity will feel intense after your time in space. Brace yourselves. You have 40 seconds. Ruby looked at Leon with a mix of excitement and nerves. "Leon, will re-entry really feel that tough?" Leon nodded. "Yeah, it will. The pressure might make you feel faint, and walking in gravity again is going to be a challenge. But we're ready for it, right?" Ruby smiled. "Right." Evan's voice crackled back over the line. "Final countdown begins now. All systems are green. Good luck, Team G16. As the clock ticked down, Leon glanced out at Earth one last time, his heart swelling with pride. He glanced at Ruby and Bubba, feeling the bond they had forged over the mission. "Let's go home," Leon said, his voice steady. The countdown continued as the scene closed, leaving the ejection and descent as the next critical step. End of Scene 17. Evan's voice echoed through the communicator as the countdown began. The tension in the Orion Space Axis Command Center was palpable. 3, 2, 1, ejection initiated. The capsule detached from the spacecraft with a sharp jolt, sending it hurtling toward Earth. Inside, Leon, Ruby, and Bubba were strapped tightly into their seats, their bodies pressed against the restraints by the sheer force of descent. The capsule roared through the atmosphere, glowing faintly from the friction of re-entry. Leon's voice crackled through the radio, strained but determined. "We're descending." But before he could finish, the oppressive G-forces overtook them, and their voices faded into unconsciousness. The capsule hurtled toward its programmed landing zone, stabilizing as the autopilot adjusted its trajectory. High above the ocean, a massive parachute deployed, billowing out like a blooming flower and slowing the descent. The capsule drifted gracefully, swaying slightly before splashing down into the rolling waves of the sea. Inside the capsule, silence reigned. Leon's eyes fluttered open, blurry and unfocused. A sharp pain throbbed in his chest, but the sight of the shimmering water outside the porthole brought relief. He took a shallow breath, his voice hoarse. "We made it! Water!" Beside him, Ruby stirred, groaning softly as she regained consciousness. Her head lolled to the side before her eyes snapped open, taking in their surroundings. "Leon? We're here. We're home." The capsule's door hissed and creaked as it slowly opened, letting in the cool, salty breeze. Leon, his body weakened from the mission and the pressures of re-entry, reached out for Ruby. He pulled her close, holding her steady as they gazed together at the approaching rescue ship on the horizon. The faint hum of engines grew louder, and the ship's silhouette grew clearer, its crew waving energetically from the deck. Leon, blood trickling faintly from his nose and temple, managed a weary but triumphant smile. Finally, home. Earth. His strength gave out, and his eyes closed as he fainted, his head resting lightly against Ruby's shoulder. Ruby, her face a mix of exhaustion and relief, held onto him tightly, whispering, "We're safe, Leon. We did it." The rescue ship pulled closer, ready to retrieve the brave crew who had ventured into the unknown and returned with the promise of something extraordinary. A quiet beeping filled the hospital room as Leon stirred awake, the soft sunlight streaming through the window casting a warm glow over the sterile white walls. His body felt heavy, a lingering soreness in his muscles and joints, but his mind was clear. Slowly, he pushed himself upright, his hands gripping the sides of the bed for support. Looking around, Leon realized he was alone. A folded shirt and pants lay neatly on a chair nearby. He reached for them, sliding out of the hospital gown and into the soft fabric. His feet touched the cool floor as he stood, wobbling slightly before steadying himself. The hallway outside his room was quiet, a few scientists and nurses walking by with clipboards and data pads. As Leon stepped out, the faint echo of his footsteps seemed to announce his presence. "Leon!" a familiar voice called out. Leon turned to see Evans approaching, a wide smile on his face. Without hesitation, Leon closed the distance and embraced him tightly. "You did it, Leon," Evans said, his voice full of pride. "Finally. How are you feeling now?" Leon pulled back, a tired but grateful smile on his face. "I'm all right, but I'll live," Evans chuckled. "Good. You've earned some rest, but knowing you'll be back to work before anyone can stop you." Leon nodded. "What about Bubba and Ruby? Are they all right?" Evans laughed softly. "They're resting, just like you should be. Bubba's still sleeping, no surprise there. And Ruby, well, she's recovering too. A few more days and they'll both be up and about." Leon smiled at the thought of his teammates, a mix of relief and gratitude washing over him. "I shouldn't disturb them then. They've earned their rest too." Evans placed a hand on Leon's shoulder, his expression turning thoughtful. "Leon, your dad would be proud if he were here. You've carried his spirit with you on this mission, and you've done something extraordinary." Leon looked down for a moment, a flicker of emotion crossing his face. When he looked back at Evans, his voice was steady. "Thank you, sir. I just wanted to make him proud, to honor what he stood for. Evans smiled warmly. You did, Leon. You've not only honored him, you've made history. Now go rest. There's still a lot more to do, but for now, you've earned this moment. Leon nodded, the weight of their shared achievement settling on him. The sterile white walls of the research facility had been quiet for some time, but Leon's stomach growled loudly in the silence. Evans, noticing Leon's subtle discomfort, smiled knowingly. Well, Leon, Evans said, breaking the quiet, since you haven't eaten properly in days, how about we grab a bite to eat? Just you and me. No Ruby, no Bubba means less expense. He whispered the last part, his eyes twinkling mischievously. Leon laughed, shaking his head. As you wish, Evans. Sounds good. All right then, let's go. Evans clapped his hands together, clearly excited. I think I'd like some chicken cutlets today. Been craving them for a while. Leon raised an eyebrow. Not bad. Haven't eaten chicken in weeks, though. I think I could handle that. The two of them chuckled as they left the hallway, making their way toward the facility's dining area. Leon was looking forward to the meal, though part of him couldn't help but feel a little bad for Bubba and Ruby, who were both still resting. He was grateful for the quiet moment, but he missed the usual banter of his team. Meanwhile, in a separate room down the hall, Bubba was still sound asleep, oblivious to the world around him. His blanket was tossed half off the bed, and a small, harmless snore escaped his lips. Suddenly, in the middle of his sleep, Bubba started mumbling. Okay, Leon, get ready to enter the spaceship for Mars, and bring my drink because I am the leader. His voice was groggy, and he barely seemed to understand what he was saying. I said, I am the leader, okay? So, bring me the space drink, just like we talked about, and don't forget to make it extra sweet. Bubba smiled in his sleep, still dreaming of space adventures and important missions.